Was the Toronto Danforth shooting a symptom of so-called mental illness, or was it an ISIS attack linked to one of the largest chemical weapons busts in all of North American history? On July 22nd, Faisal Hussein, a 29-year-old Muslim man born in Canada of Pakistani heritage, used an illegal handgun to open fire on innocents dining in Toronto's Greektown along Danforth Avenue. Hussein killed two young Canadian girls, aged 10 and 18, and wounded an additional 13, some of whom may never walk again. After an exchange with gunfire with police, Hussein turned the gun on himself. According to police sources, Hussein, who was known to law enforcement, had posted favorable comments on jihadi websites and had recently visited Afghanistan. After the massacre, Toronto police refused to release his name until much later, by which point his family had a professional letter ready to go, citing nothing to do with Islam, everything to do with mental illness. The note, by the way, was crafted by this Taqiyya for Hire Muslim lobbyist, Mohammed Hashim, who on occasion gets money from Justin Trudeau's Liberal government, a guy whose public relations and media work has been widely credited by insiders as framing a new narrative for Muslims in Canada. But it would seem that ISIS didn't get the memo, literally. 3 days after the rampage, ISIS claimed responsibility for the attack through their Amaq news agency, stating that the attacker was, quote, a soldier of the Islamic State and carried out the attack in response to calls to target the citizens of coalition countries. Leaving aside the fact that Justin Trudeau pulled our jets out of the fight against ISIS for a second, media and political elites have been literally tripping over themselves to suppress the terrorist link, some outlets even going as far as calling for pity for the shooter's family, which, well, brings me to the point of this video, the shooter's family. While the public knows very little about Faisal Hussein's parents, we know quite a bit about his older brother, Fahad. Fahad, presently in a coma owing to a drug overdose in 2017, was also known to police very well. Fahad Hussein was arrested back in 2015 and charged with possession for the purposes of trafficking. By 2017, the case was forwarded to federal prosecutors to be sent to Ontario. Fahad was residing at a Thorncliffe Park address with his parents Farouk and Sultana Hussein as part of his release when he was arrested once again in February 2017 and charged with breaching his bail conditions after he allegedly was found to be in possession of shotgun shells. Released on February 21st of that year on a $10,000 bail, he was then ordered to live in Pickering, Ontario, with his surety, a 33-year-old man named Maysoom Ansari. At some point between February and September 2017, Fahad suffered a drug overdose and was sent to hospital, where he is now in a coma. But on September 20th, 2017, Durham Regional Police executed a search warrant at Ansari's address, where the shooter's brother had been living, after firefighters noticed a suspicious substance in the basement and alerted police. Police say that they discovered 33 guns and 42 kilograms of what was later identified as the very deadly drug carfentanil. Now, this is where the story gets really interesting. You see, carfentanil isn't your usual street drug. Carfentanil is 100 times stronger than its lethal cousin, fentanyl, making it 5,000 times stronger than heroin. Developed way back in the 1970s as a tranquilizer for large animals like elephants and bears, the synthetic opioid has been studied as a potential chemical weapon by countries including the US, China, and Israel. Now, according to Alberta's Chief Medical Officer, Dr. Karen Grimsrud, an amount as small as a grain of sand can kill you. So if we're to believe that the shooter's brother and all his buds are in a gang of drug dealers, does the math actually check out? Well, on the street, heroin is often sold in points, i.e. 0.1 of a gram. 42 kilograms divides into 420,000, quote, points. Carfentanil, however, is 5,000 times stronger than heroin. 1 point of carfentanil would take down an elephant. Literally, that's what it was designed to do. So if you break it down even further, multiplying the points of carfentanil, 420,000, by its potency in comparison to heroin at 5,000 times the dose, well, you get this number. 2,100,000,000 street units of carfentanil. Now, I get that everybody wants to make a buck, criminals included, but given the risk of the ambient vapors alone of that much carfentanil in one's home, never mind the fact that it would cost you about $13.5 million to acquire that inventory, well, why would any drug dealer, if that's what we're to believe the shooter's brother was, need so much of this drug? Well, Brian Escamilla, a forensic chemist who was trained at the US DEA for over a decade, offers one explanation. I don't view it as a narcotic. I view it as a toxin and a potential weapon of mass destruction. And I think a lot of agencies are now looking at it from that perspective too. In reality, the toxicity of carfentanil has been compared to that of a nerve gas. According to the Associated Press's article, Chemical Weapons for Sale, China's Unregulated Narcotic, well, the article quoted one Andrew C. Weber, Assistant U.S. Secretary of Defense for Nuclear, Chemical, and Biological Defense Programs from 2009 to 2014. Well, he says it's a weapon. Companies shouldn't be just sending it to anybody. Weber adds, countries that we are concerned about were interested in using it for offensive purposes. We're also concerned that groups like ISIS could order it commercially. Weber described various ways that carfentanil could be used as a weapon, such as knocking out troops and taking them hostage or killing civilians in closed spaces such as train stations. Translation: by weight and volume, carfentanil is as deadly as traditional, military-grade nerve agents. So, given the shady connections of this family statement crafted by a media spin doctor and the fact that ISIS has actually said that at least one of the Hussein boys was their, quote, soldier, one really has to wonder. Was Hussein's brother just a drug dealer who simply got too high on his own supply? Or is the Danforth shooter's brother in a coma because of an experiment in chemical weapons gone wrong? More specific to the news of the day, was the Danforth massacre simply an untreated case of mental illness? Or was it an ISIS plot with connections to the largest chemical weapons stockpile in North American history? Well, one thing I know for sure, media, police, and politicians better start asking these questions pretty soon, because who knows what else a band of so-called mentally ill men might be cooking up in Canada's backyard. Thanks very much, everyone, for tuning in. I so appreciate your support. Yes, I've been kicked off of PayPal and Patreon, but I'm still available both by e-transfer and Bitcoin, so if you like my journalism, you can't get anywhere else, please feel free to support by clicking on one of the links in the description below.
Hey everybody, how you doing today? So I've been thinking about this for quite some time. I've been listening to my government bullshit me, because we know that's what it is, bullshit me that there is no Muslim Brotherhood in Canada. There's a hell of a lot of organizations that can't account for all the money they're spending, but there is no Muslim Brotherhood organization in Canada, according to our government. The little video I've put together proves otherwise. But hey, who am I to call the government wrong, okay? Watch the video, crack a beer, roll a doob, sit back for 10-15 minutes, make up your own damn mind. Is the Muslim Brotherhood here in Canada? Yes or no? I used to be a bad boy. Hey, that's not what I told you to put there. Alright, that's a little more like it.
You want answers! I want the truth!
I'm just a frostbitten Canadian boy here to thin the thickness of your skin. My worry is whether or not you can handle it.
You can't handle the truth!
For those of you who've seen my other videos, I'm a big fan of Tom Quiggin, probably one of Canada's #1 experts on Islam and issues relating to Islam. I do refer to him a lot, and you'll see that in this video. Sit back, spark that doobie you rolled, grab a cold beer. We're going to be a few minutes.
That's the problem. The official line in Canada is there is no Muslim Brotherhood in Canada, and that's the line of the press. If there was an actual investigation into the violence there, it would show exactly what's happening, that the Muslim Brotherhood is there and right across Canada.
Is this clear? They don't mince words, do they? But the most important page of this document is the last page, because in the last page, they list 29 front Islamic organizations set up in the United States with the specific goal of sabotaging America from within and destroying America by our own hands. And I'm just going to name a few.
In the US, they know there's 29 different organizations operating under the umbrella of the Muslim Brotherhood, okay? If there's 29 in the US, there's at least half that many in Canada. You only have to have a little more common sense than the good Lord gave to a cabbage to understand that despite what our government tells us, the Muslim Brotherhood is here in Canada.
Number 1 on the list is ISNA, Islamic Society of North America. Number 2 on the list is the MSA, the Muslim Student Association. The Muslim Student Association has more chapters on American college campuses than the Democrats and the Republicans combined.
The Muslim Student Association was founded initially by the Muslim Brotherhood.
Number 8 on the list is NATE, the North American Islamic Trust. The North American Islamic Trust owns the deed to over 90% of American mosques in the United States.
Okay, the Muslim Brotherhood, which has a presence in about 85 different countries around the world, first shows up in Canada in 1958 in a very small way, gradually moves in the 60s and 70s, and in the 1980s it moves in a big way. The Muslim Student Association was started as their first above-ground, quote-unquote, legitimate organization, and it was intended to be a recruiting organization and an education organization. So like any other political party or group, you recruit in high school and universities because that's where you find the youth who are, may have a future with your organization. So they formed this thing, and the Muslim Student Association now has about 600 different organizations throughout Canada and the USA. It's produced a number of truly fascinating students. Ahmed Syed Khader, for instance, who we all know is the father of Omar Khader and a few others, is originally from the University of Ottawa Muslim Student Association. University of Calgary Muslim Student Association produced the Smiling Jihadist, Canada's first suicide bomber, Salman Ashrafi. Algonquin College and University of Ottawa produced a variety of ISIS fighters, including the propagandist John McGuire. Chihab Asagayhar, guess what? Muslim Student Association. University of Manitoba produced 3 different guys who disappeared to Pakistan. They're still being hunted by the Americans. There's a rather long, dodgy list of folks who've come out of the Muslim Student Association, the MSA, and gone on to be extremists and terrorists. Now,
Canada has a series of publicly identified Muslim Brotherhood front groups. Among them are the Muslim Association of Canada, CARECAN, otherwise known as NCCM, the International Relief Fund for the Afflicted and Needy, since listed as a terrorism entity, and Islamic Relief Canada. IRFAN, incidentally, lost its charitable status because it was funding Hamas to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars. Hamas is known as the Muslim Brotherhood in the Palestinian territories, and they're quite open about that. It's in their charter.
How's everybody doing today? So I wanted to do a little research into the Muslim Brotherhood in Canada, and among many of the pages that I found is this one from Wikipedia. This is discussing the Muslim Association of Canada. They call it MAC. And this particular paragraph or two here discusses the Muslim Association of Canada's ties to the Muslim Brotherhood. The Wikipedia states, MAC has not shied away from its respect for the Muslim Brotherhood, and in 2015, the non-profit Muslim Association of Canada was identified in Canadian Senate testimony as a front group for the Brotherhood. whose motto is, Allah is our objective, the Prophet is our leader, the Quran is our law, jihad is our way, and dying in the way of Allah is our highest hope. In 2015 Senate testimony. In May 2015, Canada's Senate testimony, Dr. Lorenzo Vedino, academic and security expert who specializes in Islamism and political violence in Europe and North America, stated that, quote, "You have organizations created by individuals who have personal ties to different branches of the Brotherhood," meaning the Muslim Brotherhood, "back in the Middle East, and who have personal, financial, organizational, and ideological ties to the movement. The Muslim Association of Canada would be the first name that comes to mind. There are clear links there where you have prominent individuals that for 20 or 30 years have been involved in the Brotherhood groups both in Canada and in the United States. What used to be called CARE Canada is the same thing. There are charities like Islamic Relief. Irfan is gone, but it was part of that. Irfan is IRFAN. It has been declared a terrorist organization. It was funding the Muslim Brotherhood. Well, to be specific, it was funding Hamas, which is the name of the Muslim Brotherhood in Palestine. Okay? So here in North America and in other places, it's called the Muslim Brotherhood. But if you went to Palestine, you would refer to the Muslim Brotherhood as Hamas. And Irfan, IRFAN, was declassified as a charitable organization and declared a terrorist group because it was directly funding, to the tunes of tens of millions of dollars, it was directly funding Hamas and or AKA the Muslim Brotherhood.
So, what are the indicators that it really is a Muslim Brotherhood mosque? Well, for instance, a key leadership figure in the mosque, its spokesman, the guy who testifies to the Quebec government for them, and a person that helped found the mosque, is on the Shura Council of the Muslim Brotherhood of North America, according to the Muslim Brotherhood of North America, who identified him by name, by phone number, and said he is the Masul, or the leader of the Muslim Brotherhood for Canada East.
Hope you enjoyed the video. Till next time, keep it real.